I just said that more important than how is what? Absolute certainty that you are going to get what you want. Let me teach you about absolute certainty. There are 3 beliefs to get to a space of absolute certainty, because I want you to understand this. We do not get what we want. We get what we need. And a need is something that you're absolutely certain about. For example, raise your hand if you have ever financially struggled to pay bills. Put your hand up if you have ever financially struggled to pay bills. Look around the room. Most of us in this room can relate. Now, I want to ask you a question. When you're tight at the end of the month, did you always find a way to pay the important bills? Like, for example, what's one of the most important bills to you? Not getting kicked out of your house. And when you were stressed and in a bad spot, raise your hand if you found a way. You were certain you were going to find a way to pay that rent or that mortgage. Raise your hand if you found a way. Let me ask you, did you find a way? Isn't it weird in hindsight that you always managed to find a way? Do you know why? Because you can be stressed, you can be worried, and you may not know where the money is, but you have an absolute certainty that you're gonna pay that bill, because if you don't, there's something inside you that says there's no way, I get excited, there's no way my family is getting kicked to the curb. I will find a way. How many of you get that? In parts of our life, we do this really, really well. For just a moment, think of one thing you can ensure that will happen no matter what. What is something you can do that you can ensure 100% no matter what's gonna happen? Toss a couple of them out. My kids are gonna be safe no matter what. Mama Bear's gonna do whatever it takes to protect those kids. How many of you feel me? Her 2 babies are walking out into the road and she's like, oh, come on guys, come back over here. What's mama gonna do? Yell. Ah! Right? And you're gonna book it, and you're gonna grab them up, and you're gonna save them. You're absolutely certain you're gonna keep your kids safe or do everything in your power. What else do we do that you're absolutely certain you can do? Food on the table. There's gonna be food. How many of you are at a level where you know that no matter how much you struggle, there will always be food? Raise your hand if you actually know this. Only raise your hand if you know this. Like, I will never have to go hungry. Raise your hand. Look around the room, okay? Years ago, I had 2 business partners losing everything. And these were my real estate partners. I felt bad for them. And I was wondering, what would it be like to lose $1 million house? What would it be like to have been successful and lose your stuff? There's a canyon right next to where I used to live, and I would go running out there in the mornings, as you saw in that crappy video of me yesterday, running in those same hills and mountains. And I was going on a self-made marathon, which is 26.2 miles. I'd gotten up at like 3:30 or 4 a.m. and I found 4 buddies that were willing to run with me this homemade marathon. We mapped it out, and back then I was doing ultra marathons, and I was just getting a lot of joy out of running, because when I got to that point where I just couldn't run anymore, I was primed and ready for a breakthrough. How many of you have ever been in distance sports? When you push yourself to like the ultimate, have you ever found that there's a lot of emotion that will easily come up at that moment when your body is at failure and there's like nothing left in you? I try to get there every morning. We did it again this morning on our arms. It was awesome. My buddy, I got a video of him cackling like the Joker. He was just busted up and crying like a baby. It was cool. Actually, that was yesterday. It was my brother crying this morning. I don't cry, clearly. And in running this marathon, I had allowed all of my bank accounts the 9 months previous to completely run dry. I turned everything off, wondering, what would it be like to be like my partners losing everything? I was creating a simulation. So my bank accounts started dropping and dropping and dropping. I don't remember when they hit 50 grand. I was at a point in my life where 50 grand was like, for how much money I had in wealth, I needed to have that in the bank. When it wasn't there, guess what came up? Fear. Then I got a breakthrough. I got good again, kept on going. I hit 20 grand, fear. The day that I was running this self-made marathon, I was running at the very end, the last mile. I was next to Andy Goddard, one of my buddies. And I said, Andy, don't let me walk. Don't let me stop. Get me through the end of this because I was done. And so he wanted to get my mind off of it by asking me some questions. And we started talking about my 9-month experiment of draining my accounts. And he said, well, Kris, what did you learn? And in that moment, I downloaded 3 things that were just beautiful pieces of knowledge. First one, no matter what, I now know that I will always be able to feed my family. I could become paraplegic. I will feed. There's nothing that will keep me from being able to feed my family. And I didn't know that before. And that certainty felt good. The second thing of the 3, I know that my family will never be kicked on the street. We'll never have to live on the street. And that knowledge felt good. The third one surprised me. And I remember when it came through me, I did cry. I was there. And I said, even if I leave my children no money, I want to leave them an example of a life of passion. And that's a far greater wealth than any amount of money I could ever amount to. I have an absolute certainty about these things. You can create absolute certainty in your life where you need it. For example, you may need $10,000 a month, but you may want $20,000 a month. How many of you feel me? You can say you have goals for $20,000 a month, but at the end of the day, you're gonna get what you need, not what you want, which means you're really, when the going gets tough, you're gonna likely default back and make how much money? 10. This is the same answer to the question, I don't know how to do the deal. And I said, don't worry about the how. More important than the how is developing an absolute certainty on what you want and then transmute it into a need. To do that, it will take 3 beliefs. How many? 3. How many? 3. Belief number 1, you have to believe it's out there. Everyone try it out. It's out there. If you don't believe it exists, you will not believe that you can have it. So you have to start by saying, what I want exists. Number 2, I will find it. What is it? I will find it. And number 3, if you don't believe it's worth it, you will give up. It will have never become a need and will have remained a want. So the first belief is what? It's out there. Excuse me? It's out there. Excuse me? It's out there. Belief number 2 is what? I will find it. What? I will find it. What? I will find it. And number 3, what? It's worth it. Again. It's worth it. Again. It's worth it. Friends, if you were to say, Kris, teach me how to do a deal, I say, screw that. What do you want in the next 90 days? Well, I want to do a deal. Then get absolutely certain on that. No matter what, I'm putting my life on the line. I will have a deal done in the next 90 days, no matter what. You get to absolute certainty on that, how will work itself out. Do you get me? How doesn't matter. How always works out. You find a way. You got to figure out what you want and become absolutely convicted that it already exists where? And you live it with it every day where? And you rehearse it every day where? And you feel it emotionally every day where? When you have that absolute certainty, I would bet on you every single time.